Thank you. Good evening. My name is Julie Reyes, Chair of the Community Board and Executive Committee. Any non-executive committee board members that are on Zoom may participate, but yet ineligible to vote. Please wait to be called on. On Zoom, we have ADA excusals. That would be, so it is here. Chuck Merla, Marty Wolpoff,
And
Barbara Kale. Those are it for the exec, so they will be able to participate fully. I just want to start off the meeting. For those of you who may not know, we have our aging chairperson passed away, Margaret. I'm looking right at you. Mary Ellen Gibbs. Mary Ellen Gibbs passed away this past weekend. We'll have further information. Our board is in town making the arrangements for the funeral. If anybody wishes to say anything, feel free. It's just another loss to.
Well, our condolences to the family, Alexis, and safe passage for Mary Ellen.
And I have to say, a lot of board members are assisting and giving her daughter, assistance with so many things. She happened to come into town to see her and, you know, you're overwhelmed. But a lot of board members have stepped up and they're giving her assistance. Okay.
I know this is something that people are asking, is it okay if we take like
A moment of
60 seconds?
silence?
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you.
I assume at your school, there's a big sign, it's the sound of texting in the background, so it's like traditional.
Thank you for that. Okay, we'll go on to roll call. Margaret. Please.
Sergio Villaverde, absent. Margaret Dillon, present. Julie Reyes. Present. Joey Campbell Privatune,
Present.
Laura Spalton,
Here.
Sylvia Alexander,
Here.
Constance Barnes Watson,
Here.
Bob Bender,
Here.
Edward Green,
Present.
Rashida Hilliard.
Here.
Rabbi Kaplan, Debbie Allen,
Present.
Charles Merdler, Daniel Rowan, Ramdot Singh, Deborah Travis,
Present.
Martin Walpoff.
Here.
Thank you.
And Daniel did call to say he wouldn't be able to make it, and Laura will consent to him.
We have 12, we have a point.
Right, thank you. Okay, and before we go on, I just want to say if we could do it officially or not, but I'm just going to change the agenda slightly. It will be my report, the district manager's report, then the treasurer's report. We're just dropping the treasurer behind the district manager. Any objections? Okay. So then the approval of the executive minutes for May 7th.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any opposed? Okay, so approved. Okay, so now we'll go on to the chairperson's report. There's a few things that I'm gonna jump around inside. The first thing is, as you know, our general board meeting, our last meeting for the term will be Wednesday, June 25th. And Farah and I are hosting light refreshments at 6 p.m. Please feel free to come. And if you have any community members in your committee, please either let the office know, we'll invite them, or you invite them directly, because I know there's a few committees with community members. Please invite them. Everybody else. I will make a recommendation to the new chair, if it's not me, that they meet with all the chairs throughout the summer just to catch up, get suggestions and move forward. And if it's me, I like to meet you guys one-on-one. And then we also have a tentative date for a board training for the chairs and the new people, have like a little bit of everything. Since the board members sit in as vice chair, so it's good for them to also know the process. So we have a tentative date of August 20th. So more information will follow. Marty and Barbara, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, great, thank you. Okay. And last term, when we had our intern Jalen, at the end of the term, we gave her a certificate of appreciation. And we'll look to present one to Deontay. We definitely will present it to the board first, get the board approval at the meeting. And if he's present, we'd like to present him just a certificate of appreciation for what he did during his term as a intern in the meeting. Does anyone have any objections to that?
This is very nice.
Okay. There was a group set up, not a group, it was two people. We had two people who were looking into the structure of the board, and they're going to continue it next year. Sergio is going to join them, and if anyone else is interested, we'd like to get it continued and have some kind of definitive suggestions to the board, hopefully by January. And so if anyone's interested in that, they're just looking over the board structure, the committees. Should we join committees, not join committees, get input, and they'll definitely be doing more outreach to the committee members and especially the chairs.
Is it possible to get a report from them or just to get a sense of what they're thinking about?
Yes, yes,
That would be,
yeah. And they'll also do, I've asked them like for a questionnaire and get background because a few years ago, Lisa did a lot of research on it. So they have her research, the research that they did, and with Sergio going in there, if any other members want to participate, they will have. Because that we didn't get this turn, so Sergio, he's a witmaster. So we'll definitely get something. Okay, so we haven't gotten a list, I don't think, of the new board members yet.
No.
Okay. So we haven't gotten it yet. Let's see. Our community associate has resigned. So we will be advertising for new staff. Okay, Artie is our community coordinator, so it's not Artie. It's not Artie.
most
No.
influential people.
He's actually on the line. So silent. It's not Artie. Okay, if I will talk more about that, but we will be placing ads in very shortly. What am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting a lot. And anything I forget, I'll just do it in new business. We were waiting on a response from the attorneys if there was a question posed, I think it was last December, January, when there was a court meeting at Fort Independence. There was a question on if, by hiring the intern, are we making them an employee?
Right.
We actually heard from them the night of our board meeting, and I didn't see it until the next day, that depending on how we were extending it, it's either yes or no. So Farah and I looked at it as a no.
I would just add that as a worker in our office, she is entitled to the rights of, say, a staffer as far as like EEO and things like that. But that's the extent of it.
Right. Okay, but we did look into it because it was a.
And
question posed.
overtime and things like that.
Yeah, it was a question posed by a board member, and we did look into it, they just took a long time to answer. And then, there's a council person who's looking to make district managers be term limited to 4 years. So, yeah, it's crazy, but she's by herself. So far, she doesn't have any co-sponsors since the last meeting. So Farah will talk about that too, depending on the outcome from this evening and when they need a response from. I would definitely like to submit a letter to them with Farah and I. First, let me ask, just a consensus. Well, actually, it'll be a vote if we do have a quorum. If anyone in the room is agreeable for district managers to have term limits of 4 years. Does anyone agree to that?
Or support that.
You support?
No, no.
Oh,
I was just rephrasing.
okay, so,
Does anybody support that?
okay, so I would just like to, there's a time
I'm
limit on
just
that.
gonna clarify too,
Okay.
I would have to be reappointed every 4 years.
Right.
Which is a whole process,
Mhm.
which, and I'll talk more about it.
Yeah, okay, because if there's a set deadline for us to respond by, I would like the committee, well, we can amend this so that the executive committee can at least take a vote, have our stand so that we can at least write a letter. Because I won't write a letter without a committee approval. Okay, so Farah will talk about that and then we'll decide what to do.
This is someone who's on the city council right now, who's
Yeah.
putting forth a resolution.
Yes, somebody I believe in Queens,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she's in Queens,
William.
she has no co-sponsors,
Right.
Laura?
Was that public hearing today?
Yes.
Okay, so my understanding, or what they state is that you have 72 hours to comment
Mhm.
and,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
That's why
I'll mention.
Farah's gonna do her
Right.
report, and then we're gonna do a resolution afterwards. Okay,
On this issue,
yes, Marty?
the timing is unreal. LRE didn't know about this to respond to it, but I will tell you the value of of a district manager is longevity. Knowing who the people are in city government, how to respond. And I don't know what this Queens person, what she's trying to burn, what her problem is, but this strikes me as totally illogical and counterproductive.
Yes, Farah and I had attended a meeting with the borough president's office along with all the other district managers and chairs, and there was quite a bit of discussion on it. And I haven't heard anyone who's agreeing to this,
Okay.
you know, and that's it. Sergio.
It is, I'm gonna mention.
Sergio, I just wanna let you know, since I already mentioned it, you know, the committee looking into the board structures with the committees and everything, I had let them know that you would be working with that committee, and if anyone else wanted to be involved. And they asked if any reports or anything would be forthcoming once they met, because we're looking for something at least by January. And I said, no, Sergio, yes. So just wanna make sure.
No, thank you, thank you.
Okay, good enough.
We do need to look at ourselves.
Yeah. Okay, and I think that's it for now, and I'll probably jump back in maybe under, oh wait, one other last thing. Something that I did, that I let the officers know, that it's usually, not done. If the board looks to spend more than $1,000, there was a resolution passed quite a few years ago, that when $1,000 or more is spent, that we need court approval. So because the intern, Sergio, you came in after this, our community associate resigned, so now we're looking for a new.
It's not already.
What happened?
It's the end of our recording.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Great.
Yes.
Yes, someone funded it.
It didn't just fall out?
Yes, it just fell out spontaneously.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Thank you, Bob. You're hired. You're hired, Bob.
Are they frozen? Did we lose them, Marty?
I lost somebody.
Yeah, we lost some.
Yeah, we
Yeah, we
no
lost-
longer, we no longer see the room.
I think they lost internet.
We have our own meeting.
Who's chairing it?
Track.
We didn't lose anybody.
Oh, that's excellent.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you all for rejoining. We had a little technical difficulty.
Thank you for ever
Yeah.
the simple that, ever the different.
Okay, so where I was at my last point in that we had a resolution for this board years ago that $1,000 or more, we have to, get approval before we do anything. Because of the vacancy with staff, we had extra funds in PS. And Farah inquired with OMB if we can use that money and transfer it over. And surprisingly, thankfully, we could transfer over 15,000, but it had to be done by a certain time. So I reached out to Sergio, Margaret, and Joy and let them know this is the situation and this is what I'm gonna do. I'll take your feedback, but I'm moving forward. And so I asked Farah to go ahead and retrieve 15,000 because I really cannot see a board member saying, how dare you? You know, and
We lose it.
I know, yes, we lose it, it would just go back. It's so, that I have to disclose because the action was done for 15,000, so we could spend. Now Farah has to hurry up and buy everything because it has to be purchased or bills paid by June 30th.
Okay, what's the balance after the 15 is transferred over?
I think
You're
it's
gonna
gonna come in the
see it in the
report. That's why I
treasurer's report.
switched the agenda around so that I could explain it, Farah can explain it, and then Joy will give you the final results. Okay, any questions on that? Good, so then I'll go on to the next point, the district management. Okay, thank you.
I want to wish everyone a happy Father's Day. The office was, the staff here very saddened to hear about the passing of Mary Ellen. She was very proud of her involvement on this board. We'll miss her humor, her participation at our community tabling events, and her visits to our office. I want to also give a heartfelt congratulations to our members Chuck Mordler, Rabbi Bob Kaplan, and Community Associate Artie Malzoo for making the City and State Bronx Para 100 list.
Coordinator.
Coordinator.
Did I say, ooh. Sorry about that. Okay, I did hold my monthly DSC cabinet meeting in early June, and my next meeting will be in September 2nd. Please send me any issues you want me to discuss. And again, it doesn't mean I'm not talking to city agencies, I'm just not having that monthly meeting, so I can always reach out to them over the summer. I attended a workshop at the Borough President's office with some other district managers and a couple of board chairs on bringing the temperature down, de-escalating situations. I am working on sending written testimony to the Council Government Operations hearing that was held today. Several bills in regards to community boards. I did send this to the board a few days ago. If you need me to resend it, I will. If anyone would like to just peruse briefing on what those bills were, it is here. I do want to send written testimony. I watched 5 hours of it today. Everyone weighed in, district managers, chairs, the borough president's offices all weighed in today. I'll see if I can send the link to the actual hearing. It was heartening in a sense that we all got together to say we support, trainings and support for the board. Nobody supported instilling this 4-year term reappointments for the district managers. We felt that we are, as of right, can be fired, and it takes away the authority of community boards and puts it in the hands of borough presidents to fire or, a district manager. So we were very against that. Again, I do ask you to read some of these bills, weigh in with your comments. I would like to send testimony by Thursday and go from there. There's a lot of stuff out there against community boards recently, including a hearing that Chuck, I don't know if you're gonna talk about it for the city charter, so Chuck will mention that as well. Any questions, just reach out to me. I will resend everyone the bills and that email that I sent the other day. I am gonna order more supplies with the additional $15,000 that Julie was mentioning, and I will be ordering that all this week. We have to do it this week to be to pay our bills at the end of the month. We did have our first tabling events on May 18th at North Riverdale Block Festival, and then the Riverdale Pride on June 1st. I want to thank you to our volunteers, Sebastian, Dr. Wayne, Margaret, Ramdot, Debbie Allen, Constance, and Julie Reyes. Thank you so much for stepping up and tabling at the event. I will reach out about future events in August for National Night Out Against Crime, Tuesday, August 5th. We're doing, Deb was able to arrange for a Parks movie night under the stars at Bailey Avenue Playground, Friday, August 16th, where we will be tabling, and the Marble Hill Family Fun Day. As soon as I get information on that, I'll send it out. We recently were given 50 tickets from New York Botanical Gardens for the Bronx Day on June 14th, sponsored by the Borough President's Office. We were able to give those tickets out to residents and to families at our local shelters. I'll be working on the new calendar over the summer. This is something I didn't have a chance to talk to you yet with Julie, but I spoke with Jalen Adorno, our intern today, and she let me know she's accepted an offer of employment with the school, which is something she really wanted, so I'm very happy for her. Congratulations to her. I wish her all the best on her future endeavors. She was a wonderful asset to this office and board and will be missed. So we'll be looking for a brand new community associate in the future as well. And again, Julie mentioned, we'll be offering light refreshments before the full board meeting, and we hope you can join us. So now that we've resolved the situation with our community associate who officially resigned, I'm happy to look for hiring a new associate. And I do thank the board for their support throughout this whole process. It's much appreciated. And I think that's it for me.
Where are you advertising?
I'm gonna be advertising in city and state through New York City Careers, through Riverdale Press, through Norwood News, through Bronx Times, and through El Diario, which we have to have translated.
Have you sent it to El Diario so it could all go out the same day?
Not yet, but I will.
Cause they all need to go out the same time, cause don't they take time to translate or they do it right?
They don't do the translation. We have.
No, I'm talking, you said you're gonna use a service to translate.
I hope I can, otherwise I'll ask others if they can translate for us.
We have to do it quick then.
Yes,
Okay.
after today, it was a very intense
No, I
few
know.
days of
They-
work,
they were
so,
crazy.
yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, Chuck, you had a question? Oh, please do. I hope your family's doing well. I'm thinking about it. It's crazy over there.
They're not getting a lot of sleep, but tell
I
you that.
know. I'll pray for them. Okay, that was this manager's report. No questions? Okay, so now we'll go to the treasurer's report. Joy?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is the treasurer's report for June 2025. Directing your attention to item 1, we now have 2672 left in other than personal services. And the breakout of that is in 1.1. 1.2 is the budget mod, which is addendum A. And as Chair Ray has mentioned, we have approval from OMB to transfer the 15,000 out of personal services to OTPS. And I believe I read that the expense has to be made through June 30th, right? Even though it's paid after.
Yes, I have to put into FMS to pay the bills by June 30th.
Okay, all right. So, that would bring, OTPS to 17,672 if the board approves of the budget mod. And most of that will be allocated, in code 100 as Farrah spoke to. 1.3, there are no funds requested and no funds encumbered. And 1.4, rent and energy, we have 1491 that's left. The budget mod reads in Tipton Park, whereas the Office of Management and Budget has confirmed that funds are available to transfer from personal services to other than personal services. Whereas to support the work of the board office, a budget modification for fiscal year 25 has been prepared. Whereas 15,000 from personal services will transfer to other than personal services, broken down as follows. 15,000 will be transferred to code 100, supplies and materials general. Be it resolved, Bronx Community Board 8 approves the budget modification in order to further support the work of the community office. And that is our treasurer's report for June 2025.
No, that's it.
I have a question. Did, I'll tell you in a second why I'm asking, but did any officer or employee of the board take any affirmative steps to make sure that this was done, transfer? Now I'll tell you why I'm asking. Because if the answer to that question is yes, then we should add to the resolution that we ratify and approve their action in doing so, so that nobody goes after them after the fact that it was transferred.
So you.
You mean after the OMB person?
Yeah.
Mhm.
In other words, let's assume let's assume that I am an officer. Let's assume I've taken the steps to get it transferred. And if we don't have something here, somebody can in the future say, I acted improvidently in taking those steps to get it transferred. I don't think the person acted improvidently. I think they acted carefully, and therefore I would like to ratify and confirm their action so as to protect them.
Thank you, Chuck, because that's what I said at the meeting. I said I did something that we have a resolution that you're not supposed to do, but I think it would be crazy for me not to do it, so I
So
would say,
let me move to amend the resolution to add the following.
thank you, Chuck.
Ratify it and approve any actions taken by officers or other agents of the board to secure this transfer and facilitate it.
And then you could put as reported at the executive meeting, today's date. They're
Can I
telling
ask
you
a
what my
question,
attorney.
just for clarification? So is your concern,
My concern is some
yeah,
clown in the future
uh-huh,
saying that hypothetically, you as an officer wrote a letter to do it, or set aside the money to do it, or planned to do it. And you were not authorized in advance to do that. I want to ratify the fact that you did do it and say that the executive committee of the board approve you having done it.
Because that resolution, when they did it just for $1,000. They went berserk one year for something.
The tree well.
Yeah, that was only for, so I did it for 15,000. That had my head. Bob,
Yeah, I'm just thinking about what Chuck just said. And, if we were to wait until the board votes on this resolution, that's June 25th. We have 5 days to do this. We have 5 days to do this, to spend $15,000. That's impractical.
it is, and he actually would have needed it done by June 15th, I think.
But yeah, we can't send any mods after June
So
15th
that's the only, like, I couldn't even wait for today because it would have been before our meeting.
Right.
So I would have liked to have waited until the exec at least, but I couldn't.
That's why we're ratifying it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you,
Because you had the what?
because they needed it
Absolutely,
before,
the officer have to
before
do
our
all.
meeting.
Right. But then the personnel issue only resolved recently too.
Exactly.
And without that, we wouldn't have this surplus.
But is it, maybe what we were describing though, is that it would be good to memorialize that in one of the whereases? You know, cause you've got a whereas that says that, you know, that the Office of Management and Budget confirmed the funds were available to transfer. You've got a whereas to say this to support the work of the board office. But maybe it's okay to say, and whereas, the executive committee met to,
Right.
to approve the transfer of these funds. Due to the short time frame in which that it would be, they would be able to be transferred. Just to make it really clear why it was done quickly.
But it would be Chuck's wording and ratify the officer because you can't okay it today because it's already been done. Cause it needed to be.
Well, no, I'm
done.
just saying that that's a whereas, and then the therefore be it resolved as the ratified part.
Right.
But it's providing the background of like, we did this because of the time frame
That's
that we
fine.
could not, because you could not have a meeting to ratify it in a formal way without
Okay.
losing the money.
Okay. And then we'll send everybody a copy of the resolution before it goes to the board and just to make sure.
Yeah.
And then Martha, you have a question?
maybe not, maybe that previous resolution already addresses my question of you have to receive any officer of the board prior to making transfers
Over 1,000.
over 1,000 has to be approved by the executive committee,
No, by the board,
by the board.
by the board, $1,000 over the board. Okay. And I remember, was it? it could have been someone who was in the room that they just went crazy over $500.
All I remember, was that,
I guess I've been here long
It was
enough
the
now.
tree one.
about the trees themselves?
The tree pits.
Yeah, the tree.
So what I
pits.
just-
Don't know.
I did the 15,000, I was like, oh, well.
How many trees did you get with that?
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Joyce.
See, I have already repressed this.
Any questions on Zoom? Okay, anything else, Joy?
No, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're gonna go on to the committee reports. Before we do, is Artie still there?
I do not believe
No.
so.
Okay, because he was staff, I was gonna give him a chance to say something. Okay, so then we'll go on to the committee reports. We'll start with aging, Barbara.
Okay, we have a resolution. Would you like me to read it or just summarize it?
You could summarize it. At the
Okay,
exec and at the board, you can always summarize.
great. We passed a resolution unanimously asking that our state legislators introduce legislation in the Assembly and Senate that would prohibit public employers from diminishing healthcare benefits or contributions made for healthcare coverage. It's analogous to the legislation that was sent to the New York City Council, but at the state level. Do I hear
Mhm.
questions about it?
This is, let me just add some background to this.
Go back.
Please.
About 2 years ago, there started an effort within some segments of the health insurance industry to try and limit the benefits of members of the American Federation of Teachers, the United Federation of Teachers in New York, and not make them as they once were. That stirred up a hornet's nest in the city council and elsewhere. Since I no longer have to represent the UFT, but represent the American Federation of Teachers, which conflict I disclosed, this is awful. I mean, this is a great idea. People who are public employees are gonna get screwed if we allow this sort of stuff to continue to happen. And they, retirees, in teaching community were really on track and they still did not get what they were once had. And I find that absolutely important. Right, Marty?
Yes, except the UFT started it.
My best understanding is that it was introduced in the state Senate, got to committee, never left the committee in the last legislative session, and that it is still in the city council. It hasn't died in committee yet, but I don't know. And that's the best of my knowledge. Any other questions or comments?
Any other questions? No, Barbara. Thank you,
Okay.
Barbara.
There's one other thing I'm going to report on quickly. We are going to update our senior resource guide. I'm going to work with the committee to review the guide prepared by the Bronx Borough President's Office. And once that is done, we are going to develop a plan to communicate its existence and distribute it within the community. So that's on the agenda for the coming year. Thank you all. Any questions?
None here.
You're talking about the guide from the borough president, but Lisa Dow was the head of the aging committee, and she also did a guide. Do you
Oh.
have a copy of that?
No, I'd love for you to send me one.
No, can I interrupt? Barbara, the guide is what you've been working on all year.
Oh,
So
I'm
it's
sorry.
our
I
guide,
didn't
not
realize.
The VP's guide. So that's what you're working on. And
Okay.
the intern has been helping you update it. And your committee's gonna finish updating it, you know, in the fall, you said.
maybe 'cause
Yes.
at the last meeting, the
Yeah.
VP
The
gave out
VP also
a, gave
has,
out a spin guide,
yes.
so that's.
Okay, I thought there was yet, I thought there was yet another guide. No,
There is, you're gonna use that to review and incorporate in your guide as well.
the borough presidents, yes.
Yeah, it's very small. It's, I
Right.
think you have it covered, actually.
I just looked at it, and I will focus on our district and the resources for that. It covers all of the Bronx and it's 100 pages. But I'll focus on our local. And thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Okay, I'm just gonna go back because someone pointed out rightly, we didn't vote on the resolution for the treasurers. So I just make a motion to accept the resolution as amended by Chuck and Deb.
Second.
Okay, any objections?
Yes,
Abstentions?
one,
Okay.
executive committee doesn't vote. It can be, with the support of, as recommended by, or whatever. Well, consensus is a good number, which means it's 100%. By consensus of the community board, executive committee, we have authorized, and the rest of it. But it's not a vote.
But Marty, can I ask you, where does it say that exec doesn't vote?
It's been the policy for a number of years. I don't know this.
Because we actually can vote, because when I do the letter to go to the, like for the district managers, I feel that it should be coming from the exec committee. I'm gonna take a vote on that, because I looked to see and I didn't see anywhere where it said it, because we're a committee. You know,
We have had resolutions come out of.
yeah, I mean, it may be a policy, but a committee can vote. And for the letter, I don't want to like do a letter saying that it's coming from me if I don't have a vote from the executive chairs.
Why don't you just compromise, well, Marty looks this up and figures it out, say it was the unanimous consensus
Right.
of the committee.
We could do that
No,
for,
without objection.
we could do that and we could do that, but I'm just saying, a committee can vote. An exec committee can vote. Okay, so Joy, it's your resolution, your choice. I leave it to the chairs.
Let's vote. Right?
Okay, are there any abstentions to the resolution with the two amendments from Chuck and Deb? And they will be emailed. This is going back to the budget, to the treasurer's report for the resolution on the 15,000. Okay, any abstentions? Okay, so it passes. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to the budget report that we looked over for the capital and the expenses. We had a budget committee meeting before the exec. So Joy, you wanna? You could recommend a list as you guys agree, your committee.
So we did have a couple of, points that we just want to. Wait, can you pass me my pen? Sorry. Okay, with respect to the capital request. Number 8, it was decided that we were going to expand this, try to broaden the scope. To expand to other nodes in our district.
This is expense.
This is expense, sorry, number 8 under expense. And we will clarify number 28, whether or not that in fact is capital or expense. That's with respect to the repair of the Brooklyn box connection. Number 28. Number 2 under capital. We're gonna qualify that as continued support, that's for housing. Rehab of the community center for NYCHA Marble Hill And it also will go to the bottom of the list, of the capital list,
If number was, I'm sorry.
number 2. And we'll denote it as continued support. Number 5, we did have a correction, number 8, Allen Chandler Park is not within our district, so that's gonna be removed.
And Doug's going to submit,
A list of,
park.
continued support of parks capital projects.
Yeah. So other than that, the consensus was, other than those changes, to pass this on to the full board for a vote next week.
motion,
Quick question. So you said Allen Chandler Park is not in our district?
No.
It's interesting, because we have a budget item for Allen Chandler Park entrance at 3545 Jerome, but I was told that this is one of those borderline things, and it is. That is our district. That's the 5-2.
Yeah, the Jerome Avenue is generally not, it's not our district, or we end at Golden.
Eileen, you don't go, where do you live right there?
Yeah.
Eileen?
Right.
But we have a shared interest in McDonald Park, and so sometimes the Parks Department will let us know if there's something, you know, like they recently told us about the Woodlawn Playground restoration. But generally, if it involves a street or something like that, we leave it to TV.
I thought we looked this up and found out it was, but okay.
Like the flea market will have a.
The flea market is exactly
Right
on the corner of, the flea market is technically in CB7. But it's right, it jagged right where we go.
On our website, the board
All of them
website,
allocated is in.
you could type in an address and it'll tell you which district it is.
But Chandler, there's lots of stuff going on in Chandler, they don't involve us in it all. Cause it's not really us.
So, we take a vote?
So can we take a vote on, does anyone abstain? Is anyone voting against submitting to the full board for vote?
So it passes.
But that's what we do all the time. We forward to the full board, coming from the committee and vetted by the executive committee. We don't vote unless there's a reason to prevent it. It goes through.
No, the resolution from the treasurer was the vote that we did,
But not from a committee.
right, for the treasurer.
The
Okay,
executive
so,
committee passes it along to the full board without vote. If we have a
right, the
problem
budget,
with it, we send it back to the committee that proposed it.
right, the budget, but the resolution from the treasurer, since the treasurer is an executive committee, the exec needs to approve the treasurer's report. We're just gonna move on. Economic development? Nothing to report, we did not mention. Anything. Education?
I'm not having the meeting in June. And, our, meeting in, May was in, you're giving me something?
Just
That's the staff.
the resolution from your meeting.
Environment and sanitation? Thank you so
So that
much.
was,
Oh, you have more, I'm sorry.
She has a
thing.
resolution, cause it was after the full board
Yeah.
meeting. last
Okay,
one.
sorry.
there was a, resolution, a staple application for a, pre-closing at, Ames Place between Claflin and University Avenue on May 31st. And, that was approved by the, committee.
Okay,
Thank you.
any questions? Okay. Any other items? Sylvia, any other items? That's it?
What?
That's it?
Oh, we had a, speaker from the Independent, Budget, Committee. Budget office actually, on, art in the schools, which was very interesting. And my, minutes are not quite ready, but they will be sent out momentarily.
Thank you, Sylvia. Environment and sanitation, Laura?
We had we have a resolution. It concerns the impacts of combined sewer overflow, which pollutes our water bodies, Hudson River, Harlem River. The state DEC requested that city DEP prepare a study, known as the use attainability analysis. What this analysis ended up doing was lowering the, pollution, levels. In other words, where you had to be here, now you could be here, so that less has to be done to unpollute the water bodies. So it is resolved that CBS rejects this reclassification, particularly of the Harlem River, and asked for pursuing alternative analysis, especially green infrastructure. It was passed unanimously, and that's the resolution. The committee will meet on June 18th.
Thank you. That's it? Any sections? Thank you, Laura. Health and hospitals? Ashley's not here. Does anyone want to report the health and hospitals? Okay, housing, Rashida?
Yes, we did not have a meeting in May, it was on Memorial Day, and a busy time. However, our next meeting is on Monday, June 23rd, and for the first time under my watch, they're going to have a resolution.
Be careful what you wish for.
Thank you. Land use, Chuck?
Okay, I have, three things that may sound quite different, but they have a common thread. The first issue is one that came up at the last meeting and took a significant amount of time with me. The Charter Revision Commission, a political ploy, nothing else. There's rarely ever been any substances in that in the past 10, 15 years. Has proposed the community boards have no input, don't have hearings, don't have input on urban matters. So in other words, we now get ULURP requests. Any ULURP request, no community input. What is a ULURP request? It can be any investment by the city in the venture. And the claim to support this is it'll speed up decisions on whether or not housing shall be done. Bull. It is my policy, I have never wavered from it, as a member of HDC, by appointment of the governor. I will not vote for any application unless the community has given input. Why? There isn't a member of that group that makes a decision that is at the moment a resident in or around this community board district. So how the hell do they know whether or not it's a good idea? And I have no idea what goes on in Bushwick. So why should I do? People in Bushwick should have a right to be heard. I'm not surprised that this will anticipate my own point. There is an effort now that is a tag on to an effort on the de Blasio administration to do away with community boards by slowly cutting their powers away so that they are just a talking group or advisory on whether we should have a SAPO permit issued or not have a SAPO permit issued. A very, very able New Yorker, Carl Weisbrod, who I served with on the MTA, is one of the leaders of this movement. He was de Blasio's city planning person. They just want to abolish community boards. This city has had attention for decades in swinging between centrist government where this Manhattan makes all the decisions and everybody else doesn't count. And decisions where they say, let's have everybody in the community make a decision and nothing ever gets done. What the community boards are supposed to do and do is to provide a measure of local reporting, advice, and the like. All we are is advisory, but at least let us remain advisory. I should tell you, I think they took this one step too far, although they did it for political reasons. The proposal also provides the city council will have no input to ULEP decisions. Now, that was either a brilliant stroke so they can get rid of the city council part and look like heroes when they pass a ban on community boards, or it was typical screw up. I'm not sure which of the two it was, but it's part of the same problem. I'm going to testify at the last hearing, which is Staten Island. Land use consensus was unanimous that we should oppose this thing. Every community ought to be heard, and I will tell you that I, as a member of HDC, will exercise the state's vote and vote against each and every application unless there is community input.
Chuck, wasn't there also removing member preference, which has just been, is that just been a policy for council members? You know, they've always respected.
The council's not in on this deal. They're gonna get thrown out.
No, but one of the things that charter revision wants to do is remove
Yes,
council,
yes.
what's known as member
Yeah.
preference.
Personally, I'd love to remove all of them, but that's a different issue.
Exactly, but I mean, that's another thing that has been
This is
discussed.
really a bad one. This is really bad. It is overreaching to try and make this no different from the king in Washington to the king in New York, and that's just no good. Whoever that king may be. So that's the first one. If I have your approval, I will speak against that as land use has asked me to do unanimously. Second one is, let me interrupt to tell you something before I get to that. Among the tragic demises of the past week or so has been the death of June Island, who used to be the city council member from this district. I knew June for 50 years. She was a good friend, knew how to criticize and criticize constructively, and was somebody who took positions, had the guts to take them, and they were usually sound, almost invariably sound. This is a loss, a real loss. Died last Friday on the operating table. I do not know from why she was there. Okay. The second issue that I want to talk to you about is SNAD. This is the same theme, get rid of community boards and what they want. We now have at least 3 cases in the recent past which build on the desire of city planning to get rid of SNAD. They've lost on the attempts twice to legislate it out of business. Our city council representatives, all 3 of them, opposed getting rid of SNAD, and did so vigorously enough so that that didn't pass. This time it didn't pass 2 years ago. This is really pretty bad. What they are doing now is the following. Building inspectors suddenly are insisting that unless I see a man working to demolish the building, even if the building's been demolished, there's no violation. Unless I see the guy cut down the tree, even if you show me a picture of the guy cutting down the tree, there's no violation. They're just not enforcing SNAD. Landmarks Commission just joined the fray in that they're issuing permits that people can use and are using to say, well, landmarks approved this thing, therefore I can do it. And right in Fieldston, that's happening. And of course, city planning has been against SNAD all the way through. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why. It's really a preservationist effort to try and keep New York City green in a really constructive way. The people who have been screaming over in the area of the amalgamated and the like have been making this point now dramatically because their neighborhood is being decimated by this sort of stuff. And again, we have had, I thought there was a resolution on this.
We've been trying
There
to
is a
get you
resolution.
and Marty to finalize it with
All right,
me.
I'll look at it tonight, but I want you to know, this is something we really need to either say, we're gonna do it, or let's stop kidding ourselves in the public and say, City of New York, have a good time, chop down every tree. I'm renting out axes to take care of Central Park. Oh, you can't touch Central Park. That's where the theory is. This is a Manhattan-centric kind of thing that happens as part of this overall thing. They really don't care.
In terms of the SNAP issue and keeping things green, is there a way to, in the same way that the person wanted to have like a 4-year term limit, is there a way to like make that like for the next 99 years, you can't touch, no? Okay.
It's a provision of the zoning resolution. Let me show you how far they reached to try and get that. The zoning resolution, which I was the first interpreter of, as was enacted while I was just before I was building commissioner. So for the next 2 years, I was the interpreter of it. The zoning resolution says it shall be enforced by the Department of Buildings and reviewed by city planning. It doesn't say landmarks, but landmarks is now issuing permits that override it. So this is not a good one. So that's the second thing, and unless you have a problem with that, I will deal with it before the charter commission. The third item is one that comes back to you. Some of you may remember this. There's a building in Marlville called the Caro Building. It's located on West 225th Street. And it is historic in terms of the years it's been around. Never been declared historic by landmarks because they're too busy doing other important things. You know, landmarks has on the board, just to show you how this thing is. There's no rule. Incest is best when kept in the family. This is an example. On the Landmarks Commission is an architect whose office has a share of in excess of 50% of all the applications that come into this board for review. Landmarks is not touch the Carroll building. The windows are historic in nature. There are reproductions that are made, but what they are doing is Landmarks wants to approve it, and they don't care whether it's the same thing at all or not. If they had said, we approve, you can change them all out, but they must look the same or substantially the same, which is what they do in Manhattan. Take a look. If you go to the Metropolitan Museum lot, that area has all little windows, little squares. And they are mandated under the Carnegie Hill Development Program. Doesn't apply up here, apparently. So, this resolution is generated by the community, by the people living in that building and living in that area. And the committee was unanimous again in favoring it being addressed, and I would like to do that also. They all try to do that.
Yes.
Chuck, I'm not sure the final therefore be it resolved. I'm not sure we actually agreed on that at the meeting. That,
You all right?
yeah, that nothing can be done. What we did agree on was that this should go to landmarks for reconsideration, and it should be done as quickly as possible.
Right out the last part.
Yeah. Okay.
Which one, the Department of Building Permits?
Yeah, the very last,
So
therefore,
we're just gonna take that off?
right,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's where we are. I must tell, maybe I'm just crazy, which is not the first time somebody said that. We have a problem here. Inch by inch, day by day, section by section, there are those who want to get rid of community boards and their boards. Many of them do it very openly in the sense of saying, we need a centralized, powerful mayor. Others say, that's not what we need to have everybody be in the same picture, otherwise you're not gonna have a city that's fit for living and fit for people. So, that's an issue we have to think about, work out, it'll show up in DOT, show up in your traffic stuff, it'll show up in your housing stuff, it shows up everywhere. The person who's engineering it on the commission is Weisbrot. Very smart, very able guy. But he genuinely believes we need a king as mayor. I genuinely disagree.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Chuck?
How are you gonna get that in 3-minute testimony?
I'll-
I'm being facetious. That's a lot.
And thank you.
I think the best weapon I have is to say to them, your theory is to try and help move along urban renewal or HDC. I promise you, I will veto every one of them. Now you sit there.
Okay, right.
And thank you for going to testify on those issues, Chuck.
It's in Staten Island,
I know.
which is the other place that has SNAD on
So we'll go on to the next committee, Marty, Law, Rules and Ethics.
Yeah, I have 4 semi-short things. The first one is we have looked at, I didn't know about this thing with the city council and getting rid of district managers after 4 years. But we've been looking at state legislation seeking to amend parts of the open meetings law and been surprised by a lot of it. And what appears mostly is that in spite of Laura's best efforts 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we wanted to make sure that we would be in line to do telecommunications and teleconferencing, it appears that there are many, I don't know the number of community boards that aren't doing that. As a result, there's lots of legislation to force them to do that. And the minutes of the LRE, I recommend you look at it because I've listed a number of items where legislation is considering making changes. Some you may agree with and some you may not. I'd love your input to get a chance to look at it. Some of it, for example, is we had a thing 2 years ago with Senator Rivera, who supports the idea of reducing the quorum required for a community board meeting from 50% plus one to down to 25% plus one, because obviously community boards are having difficulty getting a quorum. So that's still in the mix. But beyond that, there's also legislation that all who has to show up, all, is the chair of the committee or a designee, and that one person allowing for community, the public to participate, that one person is enough to establish a meeting. And thank you very much. There is legislation being considered, and just know that June is around, the end of June is around the corner, and this session will end. And if these things have not been legislated upon, they die. So many of them may come back to haunt again, but you should know about them. There is an attempt, there is one legislation that not only do you take attendance, but you need to record. And I say this to primarily to for Farah, you need to record when people come in and when they might leave during the course of the meeting. I don't know how you do that, but that's a requirement. Also, an hour's worth of training for all community board members. And there are lots of things that I find very interesting, and you might also. Second item is Farah, I sent in for 2 slides. Are they available?
The 2 slides?
I sent it to Artie.
Okay.
You know nothing about it. Okay, fine.
No, I'm sorry. I was in a hearing all day.
Article 5 of our bylaws discusses officers and committee chairs. And section 3 has a section which I have, after all these years reading it, seems to be contradictory. Upon the occurrence of a vacancy in the position of a chairperson, the vice chairperson shall assume the position of chairperson for the remainder of the term, period. The election to fill any vacancy shall take place upon written notice not later than the second regular meeting following the creation of the vacancy. Is there an election or not an election? Is it automatically the co-chair or not automatically the co-chair? We have been looking at this for 2 months now, and we have a recommendation for the to amend the bylaws, which I'm not going to raise now. I'm going to share with you now, but since to amend requires 2 consecutive votes of the board, we'll raise this in September or October as a request for an amendment. But the amendment we're suggesting is, and we've checked with other sources, including Rosemary, who's very good at this. The first sentence about a chairperson vacancy, the vice chairperson takes over. We believe that sentence means the board chairperson. And the section about the filling vacancies in a chairperson position refers to a committee chairperson, a standing committee chairperson. So the primary part of the resolution or the amendment we're going to suggest in September is that the word board be put in the appropriate places so there's no confusion as to which one is which and what is being talked about. And it was felt this request, this suggestion will also include another section in which there be an order of succession in the chairperson position. So what you have is, if the chairperson leaves for whatever reason, the vice chair takes over as chair. But if the vice chairperson, for whatever reason, doesn't want to assume that position, then the next person would be the secretary, and the next person would be the treasurer. Think about it. Give me any input you may believe you're thinking about, and I'll bring this back in September. Third item I want to talk about is a question that came up. We have nothing in writing. Jesse, want to make sure we establish the principle. There is history that a person cannot serve as a chair of more than one committee, or an officer and or chairperson cannot serve in more than one position, one or the other. And so the question became, if a vice chairperson is a chairperson of another committee, can that vice chairperson serve as the chairperson? Technically, the answer is no. And we will discuss that further at a future time after the summer. But that's the second issue we've been discussing for a while. And again, I suggest or recommend that you look at our minutes. And the final thing I want to talk about is the whole question of vice chairperson. Um, I was reappointed. I have, at the end of these 2 years, I will be among a few who will no longer be able to serve due to term limits. I had the list, but there are other people in that very same position, meaning people who have served for a period of time as a chairperson would not be able to continue after 2 years hence. And so the recommendation is that all chairpersons consider having more than one vice chair, or more importantly, establish a succession. It still takes an election. There's no guarantee of succession, but people who are trained so we don't go cold in 2 years when chairpersons disappear and there's no one trained or knows the internal workings of the committee who could take over. So there, again, the recommendation is that the chairpersons consider expanding from one vice chair to 2 vice chairs, or wherever else you may want to work it, but at least establish people who are prepared to take over that role. That's it.
Marty?
Yes.
may I- Is that the rule or, by the, term limit statute, you can't serve as a committee chair for more than 2 years?
No, the term limits is that city charter, we're going to reach the
Right.
end of our terms. I just got reappointed. This is my last term under term limits. I will
Right.
not be able to serve year 3. I'm gone. I could come back if I so choose, but free at last comes to mind a great deal. So, but the point is, I'm looking at my committee, for example. My committee has gotten very small. I'm not happy with that, but 2 of my members are chairs of other committees. And so if they continue, they can't be chair of LRE, and another person has the same term limit impact as mine. So in effect, if I were to leave today, there's no one on my committee who could succeed in the long term, unless they chose to switch committees. So that's just a recommendation for the good of the committee board.
Let me, if I may, make 2 recommendations that go to the committee to consider in the coming year. One, it's my understanding that I'm not one of them, but that a significant number of committee chairs of this board are gonna be term limited out this year or next. I think I've got
Next
either
year.
2 or 3 years to go,
27.
okay? That's not good. Because it takes away the history. By taking away the history, you have taken away a great deal of the background as to how we got where we are, good, bad, or indifferent. So 2 suggestions I have are as follows. One, I would like to see us generate, by way of resolution, if LRE agrees and then the board considers it, to repeal that section of term limits. The only useful purpose it serves would just as easily be served by the people who are on the board who can make that kind of a decision by not electing them, and we've done that in the past. So that's number 1, and I would urge you, Marty, to think about that. The second suggestion is, until that happens, we have to prepare for a problem. And so what I would suggest we do is those committee chairs who A, want to, and B, are able to, would serve as advisors to the committee for the year in which they can't be around, so that we create some form of an advisory mechanism so that the people in the years that they're out can still participate actively and provide the benefit of their background to the committee and to the board and the community.
Wouldn't this be very similar to the community committee member?
Yep,
Yeah.
That's what I was
Exactly,
thinking.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
We can already do, we don't need to change anything, Chuck. You can have a community committee member on a committee.
Like Bob.
And so the
Phillips.
person who is no longer the chair of that committee could simply join as a community committee member.
Where they
They
could
do
vote.
that as a formal matter to give them some status and make it a welcome thing. That's why we have, for example, those ex officio or other positions like.
Right.
Well, I think that Marty's committee could look to see that our bylaws say that you have to go to a meeting, 3 consecutive meetings to be a community member. If they could amend it to say
Or be a chair.
a past chair can automatically be a community member, and then this way they'll be able to vote and voice their opinions. Because we do have ex-chairs like Kelly and Bob Fanuzzi, they help tremendously without even coming to a lot of meetings. But if like on your line, Chuck, in order for them to be that advisory, I think like if we just amended the bylaws, just to add, if you were a committee chair, you could automatically be a
Marty,
community member.
Well, with the approval of the
Yeah.
sitting chair.
Yes, of course, of
Yeah.
course. Everything goes by the committee chair.
Yeah.
And then also, I think if the chairs, and I had mentioned this last term, if the current chairs or the new chairs select a vice chair who is not, their term isn't coming up, work with the new person, and I know I mentioned this when we got that nice new group. Work with the new member, if not even as a vice chair, but work with them. I think there should be a vice chair, because when the people leave, they're it. Select a vice chair so that you're a chair now and you give off that knowledge, and also start a list, because I want to meet with everyone if I'm still the chair next time, and every committee, especially land use. Have a list of questions that you should ask. Because Chuck, without you, those questions that we need to ask those people, I mean, I'm on board 25 years, I wouldn't know half the questions. Like, we need to start preparing the people who
I
are gonna
agree.
be left behind. Like, every committee, start like traffic and transportation, parks, there's some questions that you automatically know. Start writing out a list for them so that when they
Good
leave,
idea,
you know, you have something to pass along to them.
good idea.
You know, and the thing about the 2 vice chairs, I think is crazy. The board used to have 2 vice chairs years ago, they did away with it, because I believe that is, if you have 2, then you're gonna take away from the person that really needs to learn. You know, select someone that you can work with, so that they can carry on your work. That's just my opinion. Okay?
Just quickly, I, rules and ethics, I know this term limit thing, once you're gone, you can reapply again in another year, so just look at it carefully that there's no provision in it that prevents somebody from being a community member, because my understanding was you had to be off the board a year before you reapplied. I don't know if that applies to, community members too. I would just
No.
look carefully.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I think
That's separate.
because you lose the ability to vote as a committee member, that it kind of, you can still feed the addiction, but you can't vote. And so it's like being a regular person.
But as a community member, you can vote in the committee to give your voice.
Just
Right.
not at the
Yeah.
full board.
But just,
Right, not at the full board, but at least at the committee, it's a, you know, that means something.
yeah, that's true.
I think
Lauren?
Julie's suggestion is a good one. It's gonna take a little while for this, well, we have time. But, when they come back in September, LRE will discuss amending the bylaws in that direction so that we, create a situation where past community board members who wish to serve on a committee need not go through the 3-month test period, because they bring experience.
And Sergio's committees will be working on possible recommendations to changes in the bylaws. If after their research, they see that they bring it to the exec and to LRE, they have to bring it to LRE and to the exec on the committee structures, that will be a bylaw change, so you guys can work together.
For sure. Some of the committees now, to Chuck's point, or maybe Marty's point, are limited to appointed members. Land use, LRE, So if we wanna do that, there will be some bylaw changes that are required.
Let me explain to you why that provision is in for land use, just so we all know.
Budget.
Maybe, but the reason it's there, whether you like it or not, I'm gonna tell you, but you can do whatever you want to do. We had a bunch years ago, 10 years ago. We had major disputes on a whole range of it. And they fractionalized the board. And you would suddenly find before a meeting of the X committee, 13 new members, all of whom happen to have same view on the issue. The idea was to stop that. There was an effort by me to say, listen, you can't do that because the chair is not going to appoint your chair of the committee to the committee. And they said, no, you don't have the right to do that. That's the depth to which it all went. So that's why you have the requirement of trying to get through this kind of problem. It's a commentary, again, on the point I made before. Community boards have by inch, year by year, been eroded in terms of what they can say, what they can do, and what damn value it is that they say anything at all. This used to be called the Community Planning Board. Its function was to plan for the community. City planning takes umbrage when we propose to plan.
Thank you. Marty, you have more?
No, I'm done.
Thank you, Marty. A lot to digest. Yeah. Okay, parks?
We did not meet in May. Our next meeting is September 23rd, I think. Just double check. September 24th.
And you're moving on it?
The Parks Department will be doing a movie Under the Stars at Bailey Playground on August
16.
16th. And we don't know what movie it is yet. And they did send an announcement about the movies Under the Stars for January or for June and July, and I'm assuming it's not on there because they haven't done August yet, but then we'll know what the movie is.
And will you be, is your committee still working on trying to gather the community in that area of Bailey Park?
I would like to go have a table with us. I've also reached out to there's a friends group for Bailey Playground now, and I've reached out and let him know, so he's organizing some activities for the movie Under the Stars. So, and then we can also we're trying to encourage elected officials to come on that night to talk to folks who are using the park.
Okay, good. And get people.
Get people all in one place.
Right.
Deb, could you send me the information for the Friends of Bailey Avenue, just so we have it with our other friends groups?
Okay.
If I don't have it already.
Friends of Bailey Playground.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. Okay, public safety?
Public Safety Committee had 5 resolutions. We had 3 renewal applications for SLA, Altina, 308 West 231st. Pecafino, 5704 Marshallou Avenue, and Bronx Burger House, 5816 Marshallou Avenue. Committee, voted unanimously to approve all 3 of those. We also had an alteration application for, Wave Hill, Great Performances. Their alteration is they are going to convert, well, they're gonna add a seasonal bar to the gardens and convert their food counter to a customs bar. They brought in the plans, they showed us everything, no issues up there. Committee approved it unanimously. And our last application was, or last resolution rather, was for the Office of Cannabis Management for 3603 Riverdale Avenue. And the committee voted unanimously to disapprove this application, and our reasons were, the applicant did not even show up. They sent their business partners, and the application is in one person's name. The business partners show up. They have what's essentially, I'm not gonna use the word, but they have a sublease with the applicant that the landlord says is null and void because the property was leased to this person as a diner, not as a weed spot. So, that was one of the many reasons we, that alone would have sunk it with me, but we also got, landlord sent a letter, other merchants who wanted to remain anonymous sent a letter speaking against it. And, the applicants, it was seemed a little deceptive, and they were called out on it by several members of the committee about trying to get a sublease and not even telling the landlord of the building what they were doing. So we disapproved that unanimously. I'm gonna say also, so our meeting, we had a guest speaker there, one of the sheriffs from the sheriff's department speaking about illegal smoke shop. She was terrific. We've developed a better relationship with them. We're gonna continue talking with them about some of the illegal smoke shops that keep popping up in our area. And, we have a meeting tomorrow night at 7 p.m., 50th precinct. We anticipate having possibly 9 more resolutions, so we're gonna have a lot of resolutions coming up at this board meeting, because it's for the 5 and potentially 9. I beg people to please show up at this meeting. If you're a committee member for public safety, it has the potential to be a very contentious meeting. We have 3 new OCM cannabis applications. We have a couple of SLAs that have had a bit of a checkered history in our neighborhood, and the committee needs your support. If you're part of the committee, if you're part of this board, we would like your support. I need your support. Please show up. It's gonna be a lot for this last meeting tomorrow.
When is it?
Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at 50th precinct. And the board has received more emails on this topic of legal cannabis places opening up than anything I can remember in recent history for this committee. So we've gotten a lot of resident input on this particular topic. And we have a few people who are very eager to open up businesses in our neighborhood, and they seem to have, secured leases for all the spaces so far. So that's all I'll say about that for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions?
I know that there's a potential for this to be contentious. I'm just assuming it's about.
Not necessarily, but okay.
So now.
Among other things, yeah.
Well, now I'm just looking at, so,
Yeah.
is there any indication that, or any evidence that these people have been involved in the community or with the community board?
I've been involved with the community.
Like, do they come to meetings regularly or what have you, like,
No, I don't, I mean, a couple of people one of the owners has showed up at several meetings, but,
or involved, I should say, is there any involvement with the
no,
community?
not that I'm aware.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ed. And you'll try to condense this.
You better believe it.
If we have a long, because Marty even reminded me, we have a long meeting next Wednesday.
Yeah.
So the agenda will be amended a little bit to put the resolutions up front to make sure that we get business done at least. And for everyone to please stay till the end. Marty, thanks for that, for your email. I got that email about next week's agenda, how it'll be amended a bit. Thank you. Okay, so then we'll go to you. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, I skipped over traffic and transportation.
Oh, I think there's only 9 resolutions, real quick.
And I have to say with traffic and transportation, I was out in the street after the concert and there were thousands of people there. And one guy, I think he goes to your committee too, I think his name is Oliver. He just yelled out my name and I didn't even, but I remember seeing him in your committees. And he wanted to express the thanks for coming to the Bailey Avenue and having that meeting. He went in person and he went on Zoom. So I just need to extend the thanks to everybody because he said, it was nice to hear that they actually recognized and appreciated it. And even after the meeting, people approached you and was very appreciative. So I just needed to say that. And Oliver, you gotta grab him because, and also for housing, that's only sign up. Because he's with his building and he sounds like he would be good.
Is this the
to
group
come
that came to
aboard.
public safety, that you were handing out the flyers?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
gentleman, he
yeah,
came to
yeah.
the, DNT.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of resolutions, the ones that are easy breezy, the SAFO ones, Anvil, Botch Restaurant, Dining Out, Blackstone Bar and Grill, Marianne Pizza Cafe, Yo Burger, Yucca Latin Bistro. On May 15th, the committee voted unanimously on all these applicants and there were no issues. We're gonna skip on to June 4th. The Department of Transportation, we had a meeting regarding Van Cortlandt Park South, the 25th Street Corridor Safety Improvement Plan, and the bike lane. The resolution's a little long. I don't think you want me to read the resolution. I didn't think so, but, essentially, we had a lot of feedback, from the public, testimony, verbally and in writing. The biggest concern is about losing the parking spots and how it would impact the community. And also, businesses that would be impacted. There are people that are for having bike lanes because it would make it safer for cyclists, but in general, you know, we wanted to be fair and balanced with this resolution, but there are areas for improvement. The committee, there was 3 for and 1 opposed, but in general, this will help our community in terms of being fair and balanced. The other 3 resolutions for SAPO application, Bronx Public, dining out. Actually, another one's different, the 2025 New Balance Bronx 10-mile road race, which will be September 14th. We voted unanimously on that. There was no issues with that, SAPO application. And there's another one, the Riverdale 9/11 Memorial Garden Ceremony, which was also unanimously voted upon. And there was no issues with that one. The one that we did not have a vote on before the committee that we received a lot of feedback was the City Bike Program Phase 3 expansion. City Bike, they're gonna have it regardless. If we vote against it, it's gonna happen, but where we would like City Bike to really have consideration is they wanna eliminate approximately 22 parking spots by having some of the bicycles on the roadbed. And we did provide them with some recommendations from different community leaders, from different community people about where they could possibly relocate these bicycle beds and or to use additional sidewalks and or to make it near the either Spuyten Duyvil Metro North Station and or the Riverdale train station. So we did provide them with some recommendations that I will present at the full board.
Good. I just want to say that they're doing 22 new stations, but when they put them in the street, that's much more than 22 parking spots because they're long,
It's
right?
It's 22, but half of that 22,
not all are in a row.
it comes out to 22 spots.
Oh.
It could be more, it could be less, who knows? But we're against them using the roadbed.
Right.
You know, when they say that there was a comment made, well, people can walk to the community restaurants, but you know, there are nursing homes that are impacted by these spots. Family members can't visit their loved ones because there's no parking. It's not like we have a municipal parking area. I have statements from workers from 1199 and NISNA that are willing to go further with this, that are impacted by these spots.
One last, I'm sorry. One last thing, I have asked Councilman Dinowitz to do a tour because my group, Broadway Community Alliance, offered many alternates, wide sidewalks, and before final DOT, and he agreed, and he said he thought it would take place around July 1. I was waiting for after the budget, and, everybody who's interested on that tour, you know, it will be welcome, all the feedback. And I know people sent in stuff for North Riverdale, for Spike Dival, you know, there's many options, so I think there's no reason this shouldn't work.
A question, I know when they did the previous phase, they had an online interactive map where you could put specific intersections, it can have a thumbs up or a thumbs down and why, do they have that for this phase as well?
No, they don't, cause I looked. And to be honest with you, their first phase that they had wasn't as detailed into what blocks they were using in terms of where the bike beds were gonna be on the street or on the sidewalk when they did their first initial 2023 city bike presentation, because I looked.
Yeah.
And I know prior chairs had requested information about usage, specific usage on some of the city bikes, and they did not were forthcoming with that information from prior chairs.
Can I just add two things to that? We did send out to all the board members to please submit any comments you have on this, on these locations, so that we can put it, so that Debbie can put it in her resolution. So we do have board input, and community input too, which she did a great job of trying to incorporate all that into the resolution. Also, I just wanna emphasize many of the businesses on Riverdale Avenue were very passionately upset about this. It's gonna ruin their business. They keep taking up their sidewalks. They do not want bike stations on the street in front of their business. Put it a block away, put it a block south. Do not put it on the commercial corridor. That they came out, a ton of restaurant owners came out in against we're putting any bike stations in front of their restaurants or businesses.
Debbie, the Bailey Avenue resolution, which is a very complex but very thoughtful resolution, and it's a very complicated project, of course. I'm just curious about the last, be it further resolved, initiate a study of alternatives for bike lanes along Bailey Avenue. What would you put in other than a bike lane? Because the purpose of the bike lane, of course, is to have a protected bike lane, but also to narrow the street. So what would be the alternative to the bike lane?
No bike lane.
No bike, well, that's an alternative.
Just to be clear, that project is not a bike lane project, that project is a traffic calming project that.
But they
is
are,
That they did 6 months of community input on in order to establish that bike path. But the bike path is convenient because the lanes need to be brought in to slow down the traffic.
Right, the bike lane always serves two purposes. It's a protected bike lane for cycling, but it also narrows the travel lanes, which again and again, DOT has demonstrated that the wider the street, the faster the traffic goes.
Right. And that the 43 spots that are being taken away are all for daylighting of corners. They're connected to the bike lane, that those spots.
no, the bike lanes have nothing to do with the loss of the spots.
Right.
46 spots, actually. It has nothing to do with the bike lanes.
But I think the resolution kind of conflates some of these things. It makes it seem as though that this is the problem of bike lanes when it's really about the daylighting. The parking is being impacted because of the daylighting of the corners, which is just inescapable as far as I can tell. Unless you don't daylight the corners, but it's literally one of the 10% worst streets in the Bronx, which is saying something considering some of the streets that are in the Bronx.
I don't, do you think that the resolution states it's the bikes? Because I don't see it in the.
I think the resolution just states, says over and over again that there's a problem with parking and lack of parking, and the parking is gonna impact. The people were complaining about a lack of parking.
And their quality of life is impacted by it. We had testimony from people with children, you know, driving in circles, looking for parking.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I know, like I live over there, and so I know like what goes on with like the amount of, like, people think there's no parking on this side of Broadway, there's really no parking on the other side of Broadway, not to pit one against the other, but it's real, I get that. But that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I may, let me just make a point. A little over 50 years ago, a man ran for mayor of the city of New York on the proposal that we should have all streets made one-way streets out of town. His name was Buckley. He was a publisher of the National Review. His concepts have been adopted by successive commissioners of DOT, inch by inch, day by day, in many respects. I can understand the desire, A, to have bicycle lanes. In my misbegotten youth, that's where you'd find me every weekend, on a bike. But on the other hand, you have three things come into play. And this is an area I focused on while on the MTA. If you will recall, there was a major effort by friends like David Gelman and others to expand the number and width of bike lanes on the bridges. And I said, ain't gonna happen as long as I'm chairman of bridges and tunnel. We need bike lanes. We want bike lanes. But if it's strictly to provide people an opportunity to ride a bicycle, I'm all for it. If it's to constrict the traffic, it's stupid, in my opinion. Why? Because if we don't have traffic, people in some portions of this city are just not gonna have access. Let me give you an example. On the Pelham side of New York, there are no mass transit. There's a couple of dinky buses and they always break down. The service is miserable. Has been, will continue to be. TWU has been screaming about the bus for years. They're parts of Brooklyn, and the service up here, we didn't have any service going all the way up to the city line until I became chairman of that subcommittee. So it's not something that's balanced in terms of the idea of having bicycle lanes for the purpose of compressing traffic. I'm also not convinced that it speeds up materially. Yes, narrow lanes constrict it, and to that extent it does speed it up. But let me tell you a story, if I may. The entire input for congestion pricing, the entire input was based on 11 blocks or 12 blocks between 30-something street and top of the 40s. And if you go to Madison Avenue now, at 44th, 45th, 46th Street, in that area, you'll see one operative lane of driving. One lane's tied up on each side with bicycles, one lane's tied up with official parking, and the next lane is tied up with city, with FedEx and the like parking there. They don't pay traffic tickets. They don't care if you give them a traffic ticket. Why? They have a rule. The rule is as follows. It is the practical rule in New York today. They take as many tickets as you want. They then, once a week, put them in a basket. They go to a special address fixed by DOT. The tickets are weighed. They pay by weight. The weight effectively brings a ticket that's $100 down to about 10 or 11 bucks. That's cheaper than a parking lot. I'm not joking.
I don't think that's true.
They don't do
What?
They don't, I work
I know
for,
I do
I
know
work for
they
a
take.
company that deals with thousands of
I
municipal tickets.
understand, but I
that's
will
not how
tell
it's done
you that
anymore.
all of the truck tickets and all of the Amazon, there's a city council resolution in favor of that. They operate from that resolution. It's a fact of no sense left.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck, I understand your passion, and I also, it's late, and so I know the folks
Okay.
also don't wanna go on indefinitely, on the great issue of bikes versus
I'm
cars.
for bikes.
But, yeah, So I mean, so I won't go down that path too long. I do wanna say that I think that there is value to slowing down cars and that narrowing the lane has been shown to make things more safe. And I know, just as a person who lived in Manhattan for 30 years, off of 10th Avenue, off of 9th Avenue, those avenues used to be nuts. And those avenues are so much better now. You can cross them, you can get to parks, your kids can walk without being afraid of being run over by trucks. And I think that's because they've narrowed it and they've made it much more pedestrian friendly. And I really do look forward to the days when the Bailey Avenue is like that, where it feels like a residential neighborhood. And that the businesses have not gone out of business because the streets were narrow, things had to adapt. Because there are people right now who can't afford cars, right? And so we have to have more public, I think we both agree that we have to have better public transportation, just all around.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's totally awful.
And I don't want to pursue this too much farther either, but for the record, there are no bike lanes on Madison Avenue in the 40s. There's a bus lane, no bike lane. There's a
Yeah,
bus lane.
that's where all the express buses are.
On the western side.
Let's, next time I go downtown.
All
I'll
right,
take some
I was there today.
Yeah, well, I haven't been there for a week or so. Maybe in the last week they put in a bike lane. But I'll take some pictures.
Are there any other issues?
Western side.
No, that's it, and, just wanna thank everybody for
Love
the
it being
support, and,
Just quickly, I think we do need to revisit to sort of to Chuck's earlier point, why we have absolutely no input for the city bikes. You know,
We don't.
I know, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying I believe that we need to revisit that, either through legislation, LRE somewhere, because that's a bad premise that we have to start from.
So that's something that
Yes.
the committee will bring up.
Yeah.
so that's why we have this,
And I suggest another
Right, right,
particular committee. Project is to divide the Department of Traffic into two parts, traffic and highways. By that I mean the construction and repair of roads is secondary to painting the things that we're talking about. I've never seen potholes of a dimension and size and location we have now. I live on a street or off a street, 254th Street, which leads to a railway station and leads to a school. There is a sinkhole in the middle of that street that has sunk 3 times so far in the past few months. Community Board's been screaming about it time and again because MTA is screaming about it. It's bad.
So that's something that'll be in your committee, and have something to look forward to next term.
Well,
That's a capital project.
Thank you
too.
for your report.
can I add one thing to that, Chuck and everyone? DOT went out on my request to fill, I took pictures of the major potholes in front of the railway station. So they filled it this week as a favor.
As a favor, they
To us,
filled
which-
the ones also at the
Yes.
top.
Yes.
I just almost broke my axle on the way here going over.
There's 2 other
They
big
need to go
sinkholes.
throughout the district,
Yeah.
and not just there, they need to go all over.
Yeah.
I'm
By
gonna
the
move
way,
it on, I'm
it's
gonna,
not
I'm
entirely
gonna,
their
I'm
fault.
gonna move the agenda along. We have 3 more committees, and I just remembered what I forgot, I kept saying there's something else, I'll do it in new business. I should have submitted a resolution to continue these 3 committees.
Oh, yeah.
Unless the committees state that they no longer want to continue, but I'll have a draft of it and send it to you before the next board meeting. So first, we'll start with the special committee on Hudson River Greenway.
Yeah, thank you. I did prepare a report, which I had hoped to circulate before the meeting tonight, but didn't quite get to it, but I will send it so that we have it for the board meeting, on why I think we should continue the committee. I do have one piece of news. We are going to be meeting with MTA Metro North about their resiliency project on the Hudson River. It's not going to happen until after the board meeting. The date is still not final. So I won't be able to report on that at the board meeting, but this is something we've been trying to set up literally for months, to sit down with Metro North, find out what they're planning along the Hudson River, and determine whether it's going to in any way inhibit the planning and development of the Greenway. So, I'll still report to the board whenever it happens,
Okay.
over the summer, but I just wanted to pass that along.
Okay,
It will inhibit.
great, thank
That's
you.
their philosophy
and-
of that.
That reminded me, of when you said, is there any more for your report?
No, that's it.
Okay, and then I'll do the resolution and everyone will get it to continue your committee.
Mhm.
Chuck, I'm just gonna go back to land use. In your committee, I believe that you mentioned you got approval from your committee members that if something were to come up, it would be okay for you to handle the issue. Do you recall what that was?
The SNAP?
It was snap.
Okay, so that the executive knows that if anything comes over during the summer, Chuck will continue to work on that. If anyone has any objections, they have to say so now. And then with that, I'll go back to Bob Benzer for the nominating committee.
Yeah, well, we delivered our report last week, and I'm pretty sure it did circulate, right, Tara? Yeah. So, the two positions that were open at the time were budget and, health hospitals and social services. And as, was in the report, the committee recommended Sebastian Chittilapoli for the budget committee and, Dr. DeBeetham for the health hospitals and social services. As far as every other committee, we just recommended continuing the committee chairs and the officers. So, I've been on that committee before. There've been years when we had 4 or 5 vacancies. We had only 2 this year, so our workload was relatively light.
Okay.
So that, of course, as we all know, we have to vote on all of those positions at the board meeting.
Right,
And,
Question.
and then naturally we'll have another opening.
Another vacancy.
Right.
well, we will, exactly,
Right,
right,
Yeah.
which has just happened,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, great. So that takes care of nominating committee. The next is the committee on racial equity. And Bob, I just want to say thank you for chairing that committee and being on it. And Ed, who else is it? Constance?
We've
Who's
got,
on the committee?
Debbie,
Debbie.
Ed,
I know people who are like, oh, I don't want to be on there.
Hi.
Thank you all.
Yeah. no, Jessica Sosa and Cesar are with the other
Yeah.
committee members,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think.
Bob did an amazing job as chair, and I wouldn't even have been on this committee. Blessing the chair.
Thank
Not
you
true.
all, you
Okay.
know, thank you. Okay, so special committee on racial equity.
We submitted our draft interim 2025 interim report to the board chair. And I anticipate that it'll be circulated to the full board.
I just had questions, am I just sending it as you sent it? Or
think so.
I was waiting for any final comments, but then that's very easy.
Yeah, I think so, with the list of activities, the updated, capital request map. And for fiscal year 26, and there's one other item. But thank you to all the chairs who contributed. I think we almost had 100%, not fully 100% contribution from all standing committees, but mostly we did. So we were able to update the activities of each standing committee in terms of what they're doing to advance equity within the district.
You always do great thing hearing reports. And then, wasn't your committee, didn't you guys think of doing a hate card? There was
Maybe.
something you guys drafted that was nice.
A
It was
hate
nice.
card?
Well, not hate.
I hate
know
you.
what I'm- Have money, actually
Okay.
print it. I remember,
Sure.
we'll look for it. Chuck?
I have a suggestion for 2 projects. I'll disclose my bias right off the bat. I am an immigrant and a refugee. I came through it all. I went through it in the Holocaust. You are seeing now it being used as a vehicle to segregate and remove people from a certain persuasion, certain ethnic, viewpoint and all that. I think it is time somebody took a look at that. And I will tell you that I've asked certain Jewish organizations to do so, and so far they've failed to do so. Please, take a look at something like that. It's wrong. Okay? The second one is something that you also, in my view, to take a look at. It's instinct only, and I have no facts to support it. But I have an increasing view that in the housing area, that is being used as a vehicle. Let me explain what I mean by that. Affordable housing can be, I'll give you the exact building. It's on 59th Street when you get off the West Side Highway. It's the Pyramid Building. There are 10 affordable housing units in that building. It is an affordable housing building because there are 10 affordable units. Take a look at the 3 off the Major Deegan, same kind of thing. And so by these standards, as the real estate board exercises enormous influence over this district, and I've never seen anything quite like it. What you have happening is affordability is being used as a vehicle in major part to constrain and restrict. Somebody's got to turn to that one. It's instinct only, but I'm learning to trust my instinct. It's something you'll look at. Okay.
Thank you. Special Committee on Veteran Services.
Thank you. We recently had a meeting, the minutes are out today, and we didn't have a quorum, but we did still produce, notes, since you don't have, you have minutes. We did have Dr. Leslie Branch from the New York State, Deputy Commissioner, New York State Department of Veterans Services come in. And the big ticket items are, we're hoping for 11/2, November 2nd for the, Memorial Grove event. And we did receive feedback on our award criteria. Thank you. The discussion, take that very seriously, and I think we can fit that into the criteria we sent last February anyway, so you should all be happy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And then I think Farah wanted to say something to you. Hey, Farah? Yeah. Sorry.
Yes,
Did you want to say something to you?
For me?
Yeah.
You-
did you want
you-
to-
Youth committee.
I sound like.
Oh, right.
Cesar
Yeah.
is here for
Oh,
the
is
youth.
he? Yeah.
Hi.
Okay. Okay.
Hi, Cesar.
You are not leaving.
Thanks for showing up this time.
You have to
Committee
stay in
report.
your seat.
Yeah, so I thought,
This should be in line. Tell me.
The youth committee is gonna report.
I don't remember this, Chuck.
Yeah, I have my.
yeah, so the youth committee met in May to, like we had Atmosphere Academy present to the youth committee back in May around their enrollment, and that was the last discussions that were had. The youth committee will not be meeting in June.
Okay, and you will be presenting at the June board meeting, no? The board
Yes,
meeting is
the 25th, we'll be presenting the Comeback Kid Award.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, thanks, Caesar. Okay, so now we're going on to old business. Unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Any new business? Our next meeting is tentatively September 3rd, 2025. I'm hoping to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you all.
Third.
Thank you.
Yay.
Ma'am, plus my computer.